I came forward today to talk a little bit about somebody that we all know. I've distributed copies of his objectives and credentials. They should be in front of you now to look over, to take back to your branches and discuss. And if you look at them very closely, it's kind of like a book club. It's a lot of fiction in there, I think. Anyway, I met this guy about 8 years ago at the 2004 National Convention when he wanted to run for the Central Region VP. Since then, he has done many changes to his career as far as NAP's is concerned. He held the office of National VP for Central Region, and then he moved on up to the National Secretary Treasurer and has done a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned. You talk about communication. He has revamped the website along with their team up in headquarters. He has helped to revamp, like I said, the website of NAPS. He's started and continued to get more communication out to us that we probably didn't have in the past. The NAPS HQ to you, Facebook, Twitter. We started a new website membership program. Has done a lot of good things for NAPS, and I just have the honor and the privilege to come before you and ask my fellow members of Maine to support and vote for the current and who will be the re-elected National Secretary-Treasurer, Brian Wagner.
Just in case for the first-timers, if you're unaware why any of the candidates are not making appeals on their own behalf, it's against our ethics laws and rules within NAPS for a candidate to be on expenses, traveling for the organization, and speak for his own candidacy. It provides an unfair advantage to them, or an unfair advantage that the people that are not currently have the ability to travel under NAPS guidance. Those candidates don't have the advantage of being able to do that without expenses. So it's necessary for somebody else to do the speaking for the candidates. To make sure all the new people understood that. I've got a bio here that I was going to read to you about Brian Wagner, but I'm not going to do that because I think you guys know who he is now. So Brian's going to come up and provide for us first a presentation on your branch taxes and bookkeeping, and then he's going to make a presentation from as a resident officer, and then he's going to handle your Q&A. So please welcome Brian Wagner.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? What's on? All righty. Let's get started. Okay, I don't know how Jack Berry does it, so I don't know if I can make this move.
We're out on now.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to the Maine. I always enjoy coming.
You guys hear me?
No.
No.
I have trouble seeing you too, Brian. Turn it up.
Oh. Get the on button. I thought I was on an airplane. I think it's been turned off. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'll tell you what. I got to bed early last night, and we have so much soda left over. I really appreciate coming and being at the Maine. My wife Carol sends her best. She wishes she could be here. She always knew was coming. Our son's getting married in July, and she's helping out with the grandkids, and so her time on coming up and taking vacation time isn't, she doesn't have as much, but she does send her best. One of the things I want to talk about first today is branch taxes, and you know, that is not fiction. Let me tell you, I can tell you that with the branches today, this is big business. And since being Secretary Treasurer, I've up the issue of branch taxes because it is a requirement for branches. And people say, well, Brian, you opened up a can of worms. So I went back in the stacks at NAP's headquarters, and Margaret Grant and Adolph Ruiz also wrote back in the early 90s about branch tax issues, classic taxes. So it isn't something new, but it's something we've gotten away from that needs to be addressed. And even on our old website, we had information about tax information, like what they call the 990 for nonprofits. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because, we're the National Association of Postal Supervisors. Okay? We're a nonprofit at NAP's headquarters. But that doesn't mean every branch is nonprofit here. Because you're a business within yourself, amongst yourself. So what happens is if you wanted to start an organization, the National Association of Perfect Supervisors, or the National Association of Praying Supervisors, because we may need to do some praying with everything coming up in the post office, you can start an organization and bring in dues money, but the money's coming in. The IRS wants to know what's happening with this money. So one of the things we're going to talk about is the branch taxes and definitely a tax dilemma. Do you know your branch tax status? How many know if your branch is nonprofit? You know for sure your branch is nonprofit. Not because you act like a nonprofit organization, but have been designated by the IRS as a nonprofit organization. So that's very good because we have over 300 some branches. Some of our branches are nonprofit, and some are not. Which means depending on what status you are, depends on what tax filing you have to do. So if you want to find out if your branch is nonprofit, you can call the IRS, or you can write to them. I would call them, because I don't know how soon they would get back to you if you wrote to them. And the other thing is, what you're going to do is find out if you're going to become a nonprofit, what type of nonprofit. I'm going to take a step back. When you call this phone number, and then you may be thinking, geez, Brian, this tax stuff is dull and boring. You know what? You're right. But it's a requirement. This is big business. This is something. How many of you file your own tax returns? 1040. How many of you wouldn't file? Well, if you had to file, how many wouldn't file? We would file because we know that's something that has to be done. One of the things with the IRS is that you're going to go, well, how do I know what my tax status is? I'm going to call this 800 number. What do I tell them? Well, first of all, when you do your own taxes, you use your Social Security number to do your own taxes, your 1040. Well, what we find out is that when a branch gets started and you open up a checking account, let's say it's the treasurer, that treasurer is using their Social Security number to open up the checking account. You need to get what they call an employer identification number, and I will get into that if you don't already have one. But one of the things you want to call the IRS to see if you're nonprofit or not. If you're not, that's what we're going to talk about. And if you are, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So, why become a tax-exempt, what they call 501c5? And if you look at 501c5, there's a form to fill out. It talks about agriculture, education, things like that. Why it's a 5, that's what NAP's headquarters is. That's what the branches would be. First of all, your tax-exempt organization, you do not pay federal income taxes on the revenue in excess of expenses. Many of you say, well, we get dues in from NAP's headquarters. We get very little money of interest from our savings account, and we spend it all. So we have no profit. So why would we have to file? Well, I'm going to get into that because the IRS still wants to know where that money's going. Because somewhere, I'll tell you what, we've got branches getting thousands and thousands of dollars a year, and it needs to be accounted for. So, one of the things is you want to make sure if you're tax exempt, you want to pay federal income tax. You may not be required to pay state income taxes. That you have to check your own state. Most financial institutions will waive the banking fees. Some banks charge fees for if you're not a nonprofit. There's an IRS Form 990, 990EZ, or the 990N that's called e-postcard. It's electronic. And that may be simpler than filing what they call a corporate income tax return, 1120, or a partnership, and a K-1 and a Schedule E. Do you know? You don't know. If you are not nonprofit, sounds doubling, not nonprofit, and your branch makes money, you have to file a corporate tax return every year. Okay? Or, if depending on when you became a national organization, a partnership form, 1065. But here's the key thing: a K-1 and a Schedule E. If your branch is not nonprofit, you're a profitable organization, and you make a $1,000 profit. Each branch member is required to get a K-1 report, and each branch member on their personal income tax return has to file a Schedule E for royalty or income coming in. How many members do you have? You may have only get, you have, 1,000 members, let's say it's $1,000. Everybody's got to file a Schedule 1, a Schedule E for $1. That's a requirement for you as an individual. So the idea is to make sure you become nonprofit to help avoid all these extra tax filings. And if you do not choose to become nonprofit tax exempt, they consider election of a corporation over a partnership. That's a lot easier to handle than with the partnership forms. Okay, starting in 2007, every branch has to file their own tax return using their own EIN number, employer identification number. Designate what your branch name is. National Association of Supervisors on branch 255, and we have an EIN number. Tax exempt organization that fails to file requires what they call 990 and postcard or information on the 990 will lose for 3 consecutive years, will automatically lose their tax exempt status. How I found this out, and I even talked to our accountant at NAP's headquarters. He didn't even know about this rule. I'm at the Minnesota convention. I get a call from Ruth Tisdale. Many of you may have known Ruth before she went to law school. My assistant says, Brian, just posted on postalnews.com that NAP's headquarters, NAP's lost their nonprofit status. I'm like, what? I know we filed this 990. It comes this thick. I have to review it. I have to sign it. The secretary, I signed this form. We have accounts. So that's not true. What happened was the IRS went through and found out that 275,000 nonprofit organizations, NAP's auxiliaries, NAP's branches, NELC, American Legions, Kiwanis, did not file their income taxes for 3 consecutive years, which was a new law change. And they all lost their nonprofit status. So guess what? They're not nonprofit, then they are profit. So now the IRS just tagged 275,000 organizations now is looking for a corporate tax return. So what happened was, we were fine, but there happened to be a branch in Virginia, Alexandria, that lost their nonprofit status. And it pulled up, it was NAP's headquarters. It wasn't us. But there's a branch in Alexandria that lost their nonprofit status. So all of a sudden you're thinking, this is right, I'm calling our accountant, no, we're fine. So the idea is tax exempt branches are not exempt from paying sales, tax exempt branches are not exempt from paying sales tax in most cases. I did find out in Indiana, if you're nonprofit, by the federal, you don't have to pay sales tax. But you need to check that with your local state. Because some branches say, we're nonprofit, we don't have to pay tax, sales tax. A lot of churches have that. A lot of where you make a donation and you write off on your taxes. So, cost to file a tax exempt suit. If you're looking at filing for nonprofit, if your organization is $400, if you have gross receipts less than $10,000 for the preceding 4 years, $850 for all other organizations. Most NAP branches fall under the $850. I filed for nonprofit for my branch years ago when I was branch president. Didn't cost a dime. IRS wants money now. Everything has a fee. So if you would have become nonprofit, and if you look at how much DCO money that every month I give you, when I download to your, I send a wire your branch news, if you're over $10,000 in a year, then you would have to pay $850 to file for nonprofit. And it's a one-time fee. If you're under that, then you pay $400. Now you have to decide: do we have the $850 to do that, or do we want to pay corporate income taxes every year, and maybe we won't ever pay $850, so we don't make a profit. We only maybe have to pay taxes on $100 a year. That's some of the decisions you have to make as an organization. You have to at least file a corporate tax return every year. Most likely, many of you may not have the accounting background or the tax background to do that and have to hire somebody. So how much will that cost you every year? So that will add up. So the idea is, again, I recommend that you go for nonprofit. And most organizations, branches, won't have to file a corporate or long, what they call 990 form. So most NAP branches will fall under the $850 user fee. And it's very simple, and I put this, you got the handouts, when I had this printed up, it's just for note taking, you get this presentation. But it's very simple to elect tax exempt for nonprofit, where to start. IRS.gov. Where's the little, there's a little red dot? There you go, right there. You go to charities and nonprofit. And first, you're going to request an employer identification number if your branch does not already have one. You can fill out a form and mail it in, or you can go online. I recommend you go online. It takes about 5 minutes. You'll get an email back from the IRS with your EIN number, employer identification number, 16-digit number. And there's no fee for that. You need to also check with your state to see if your state requires you to have a specific number. Most don't, they'll use your employer identification number. It's kind of like our employee identification numbers at the post office. We just get rid of Social Security numbers, we'll go with an EIN to identify you. So what you do is you go on to charities and nonprofits. You're going to go search EIN SS4, follow the instructions, and of course you can mail it. What you're going to do, here's the EIN. You go to EIN Assistant, begin application. View additional types, include tax exempt. You're none of these sole proprietor, partnerships, corporate. You're none of those. You just go, and this is all, you go to this view additional, you hit continue. You're none of these. You're not a church controlled, government, state. You're other nonprofit tax exempt organization. It's going to say, please confirm your selection. Once you hit this nonprofit tax exempt organization, you hit continue, and you just continue. Walks you through it. You're doing this for banking purposes, really. That's what you're doing it for. We don't have a lot of money coming in. I mean, most branches, you know, it's reasonable, but it's not millions of dollars. But you need to become nonprofit employees for banking purposes. Whose name's going to be on the account? You don't want your own Social Security number on it, because guess what? You start receiving money in a bank account with a Social Security number on it, the IRS thinking that's your money. Why aren't you claiming it on your income tax? You start getting $10,000, $20,000 into a checking account or savings account with your Social Security number on it, and I will tell you, we have members that didn't know that. We have branches who don't even know they have the EIN number or who has the account. And those are some big challenges right now. Those of you who are sitting here are very active, so you pretty much have a good handle of your treasurer. But we have a lot of branches that we're trying to work through that. So you're going to continue. You are an individual. Who is a responsible party for this nonprofit exempt organization? You're the individual. You're not a business. You're an individual filing for it. I am responsible and duty, and you're going to put your name here. Maybe it's going to be the Secretary-Treasurer, the Treasurer, the President, and Jerry from Nevada helped me get this information here. And I'm requesting, I am responsible and duty authorized member or officer having knowledge of this organization's affairs. You continue. And this is a process. You just fill in your address. You know, the PO box can be used as an address. You're just going to fill in the information, hit continue. What's your mailing address? Most branches have a PO box, which you're going to use. Or else, maybe it's going to the treasurer, wherever your bank statements go. You're going to mark no on all these. Tell us more about your nonprofit. Does your business own a highway motor vehicle? You know, business and gambling. So, this is all known. You're going all the way down to the bottom. This deals with whether you're social assistance, transportation, you are other. You can put labor organization or management organization. You know, we are considered a labor organization over management. That's just, many organizations will call us a union. We're not a union, we're a management association. So I put in management organization, and you receive a letter online. You hit continue, and basically you're done. And you think, man, Brian, you spent 10 minutes doing this. It really doesn't take that long. Once you get in, you're going to establish yourself with your branch information. You're going to get it in the email to put whatever email address you want to go to. Check your spam to make sure it comes through, because sometimes it'll go through spam. And you'll get your EIN number. And maybe for some of you already have it, so this was 10 minutes and you wish you had back, you could have got a cup of coffee. I understand. But we have a lot of branches going, wait a minute. Once you have an EIN, you have an EIN, it's done. You don't get a new one. You keep using it. But you need to check with the bank to make sure what is registered on your bank accounts. So from there, you got your EIN. What's next? You have to fill out a form, a 1024. This is to become nonprofit. It's 18 pages. Oh no, more reports. The good thing is, you only have to complete pages 1 through 5 and 9. But you have to mail all 18 pages in. The other good thing, I hope, is that what I've done, and I'm going to bring it up here, I'm going to take a step back. I work with our accountant and our attorney. And I put on our website, and I can send this to you, the 1024 form. I have completed approximately, I would say, 85 to 90% of it for you. Boilerplate language, I talked to the IRS. Most organizations were the same. We have training, we have conventions, you do legislative, you have officers. What I've done to help you, so you don't have to start from scratch, this is on the website, and I will give it to Larry to send to everyone. The 1024 form, it's already 90% completed. Page 1, the key part is, I don't know your specific information. You have to fill this out. Most of you I know that Branch 131 has a website. Many of you might have put your website. If it's not, it's NA. You'll fill out the blue parts, and this is a PDF that's fillable. Did your organization previously apply for recognition under a tax exempt code? No. This is for your first time file. Never been nonprofit before. If you were nonprofit and lost your status, like I talked about earlier, you still fill this form out, but that would be yes. And I can help those branches who need reinstatement. I've already worked with a couple branches, and it's only $100 to get reinstated. But you have to go through the whole process of filling out this form again. Has your organization filed income tax returns or tax exempt returns before? Most likely no. So as you go through, you're an association, your officer has to sign it. Activities and operations information. Don't change this. Unless you read through it, if you don't think it's right for your branch. But I've worked with our accountants, and again, our attorneys. I put down most of you account for like 60, you have to tell how much time you spend doing things. Most activities of regular membership meetings, which accounts for, let's say 60%. So you get 10% for LTS. But this is more than enough to fill, there's 20% of the organization accounts for, which is sending me members of training. There's a 10% biannual state conventions or national conventions, and the remaining 10% focused on lobbying Congress. There's 100%. Unless you figure you want to change the percentages, I'd leave it alone. The IRS just wants a general information. So that's completed for you. Largest source of income. Most of it's going to be dues and any interest you get from your bank, maybe investments. Here's where it comes a little tricky. You need the names of your officers. Name, address, what their title is. Annual compensation. This is one of the tricky things that you need to look for. Many of your constitutions and many of your bylaws say, we give a gratuity or a stipend to the treasurer, the president, or whatever. Okay. Technically, that's compensation. That officer, treasurer, secretary, whatever they get, by rule, IRS rule, has to file it on their income tax return as other income. Okay? Now, I've got in here some steps that you might want to change. You may want to consider changing your constitution that says you will provide X amount of money for reimbursement for reimbursement of unreimbursed expense, incidental expenses, things like cabs and that. You're going to give them X amount to cover other expenses when they drive to the Office Depot store or any mileage they do, they don't pay for it. Incidental expenses, that's not reimbursed. That wouldn't be taxable. Those are for expenses that aren't reimbursed. So, but that's one of the things you have to do. Are you paying? And some people have hired and paid, but that's something you have to do. All these others are NA. State the qualifications necessary for membership. I just take that out of our national constitution. Explain how your organization's asset will be distributed or dissolved. Here's another thing. What happens if you do dissolve? You merge with another branch. What's going to happen with your dues? You just can't say, hey, we're going to give all the whatever treasure we're going to divvy up between our members. That's against the law. You can't do that. So what's going to happen is you have to state what's going to happen. And I would go back to your local constitutions and bylaws and put it in there. What happens if your branch were to dissolve? What would happen with the treasury? What would happen with the funds? The IRS wants to know this. Because when you send this information in, you have to send a copy of your constitution and bylaws. And you're thinking, geez, I never really thought about it. But what happens with the money? National branches with a lot of money out there. Yes, Cindy.
Okay, our officers get paid, we just refund their dues, would that be compensation?
I would look at it, they paid up front, you just gave them a refund.
Correct.
I just got a refund. I look at it as a refund. I don't look at it as compensation.
Okay.
You want to vote to give me a refund of my dues, that's fine. What I got, representation per se is, you can't touch it. You just, it's intrinsic value. So I look at it as, I paid, you gave me a refund. So, and if you want to claim it as compensation, that would be your choice. But, I'm looking at, I paid it, refunded. I guess no harm, no foul. So, but that's been a question that's asked a lot. So that would be your call. But one of the things, like I said, you're only doing the taking pages, and you're going to mark. I've got everything here, Marty marked. No. Unless you read it and you think, oh, it should be yes, but most of it's going to be no. And I know the ones who are already nonprofit are going, we've done this one. I understand that. And thank God you have. And I appreciate everybody who's nonprofit and doing it, because I tell you what, it's tough to keep up, and you got to step on this. The thing is, number 16 talks about if you do a newsletter. Many of you do a newsletter. You just change that to yes. But you still have to send in a copy of your newsletter. And I have a list of everything that needs to be done here. But here's the biggest thing, page 5, is your financials. Now, of course, you have to go the last 3 years of your financials and your current year, depending on when your fiscal year is. Okay? So, from whatever date to whatever date, if your fiscal year is January 1st to December 31st, you would do your current year from January 1st till, let's say, May 31st right now. And that would be in this column, whatever activity you have. You should be doing financial reports on your dues, gross contributions, gifts, anything you receive. Most of the time you're just going to do number 1, that's your dues coming in. You might have investment income, other income you might have done 50/50s or something, whatever. So you're not going to have much in that aspect. And then your expenses attributed to activities related to the organization's exempt purpose. Most of it's going to be your conventions, your LTS. It's going to be a lump sum number. This is where you get into it. You give contributions or gifts or grants. And who do you pay them to? Maybe the auxiliary. Compensation to officers. That would be those stipends or gratuities if you're doing it that way. If you paid any interest on something. Most of that's going to come down to the bottom line. Did you, right here, point, did you make a profit or not? IRS wants to see what your activity is. And it's going to tell how much money you actually brought in. And then you have your balance sheet, how much cash. Most of you just have cash in accounts. Many of you probably don't have any inventories, or you don't own a mortgage or a building. You're going to have just cash and any liabilities. You don't have any accounts receivable. Maybe you're doing, you may have a liability that you have to pay for, like a scholarship. And then you're going to see if you're plus or minus, what's your assets. That's page 5. The rest of this up to page 9. And page 9 is already done for you. So, like I said, when you look at it, you only have a few things. The first few pages, the financials, going to be your toughest part. And you're going to take this form, and once you complete it and have it signed, you're going to send all 18 pages in, and then you have to use a form 8718, which is basically This is pretty standard. All you're going to do is put in your name of your organization, your branch, your EIN number. You're going to go down and put, I certify the gross receipts. Whoever's name goes here, the Secretary Treasurer, and the title, and they're going to sign it. And it tells you how much you're going to pay. Whether you're going to pay $10,000 for $400, or you go farther down and can't put this down. If you have, you would mark B if you have $850 over $10,000. The group exemption letters, that's NAPS. I had our members call and say, well, I called the IRS and they told me to contact you because we have a group exemption letter. No, we don't. We are not a group. NAPS would have done it for everybody. You know, like the Red Cross and all them may have something like that for their chapters, but we don't. Everybody is your own. We don't have a group. So the third thing, you're going to mail the IRS Form 1024 and the 8718 and supporting documents. You need a copy of your current Constitution and bylaws, a copy of any articles of incorporation. Some of you may be incorporated. That's another option. I won't go into that right now. Copies of branch revenue and expense statements. So you've been doing an annual report. Copies of the minutes from 2 recent branch meetings, and a copy of a branch newsletter if you have it. Sign and date the forms by the officers. I have 2 officers sign it, just to make sure. Just sign one of, President, Secretary, Treasurer, Vice President. And you have to mail the check in order and all the paperwork to the United States Treasury. And there's an address all together, and then you wait. Maybe 3 to 4 months. If they cash your check, most likely they're check your bank account. They're going to accept it. So that's really the paperwork part of it. It's boring. It's tedious. But we try to make it as simple as we can for you, because it is serious business. So, information necessary to file the exemption, current year-to-date general ledger information, prior 3 years, this is going over, prior 3 years, a financial report, your assets, liabilities. In care of, who are you really going to have the information sent to? Address for future correspondence of the organization, P.O. Box, the IRS is getting away from P.O. Box usage, but they still take it. All your NAP officer names, and date and copy of your Constitution and bylaws. Previous newsletters, minutes, and the date the branch was formed or started. The first 50 we know were early 1908, So if you're not sure, contact me. We have on their website. You go into documents, there's a section there about history, and your branch, we may not know. What happened was, back in the 40s, the treasurer didn't stay at the NAPS headquarters, they stayed at home, and a flood happened, a lot of records got lost. Go figure. So in all honesty, it's a best guess estimate when you may have received your NAPS charter. Some of you may have the document from NAPS. What you're going to do is that we go by numbers. I'm branch 255. We got it in 1975. So the higher the number means the later you got your charter. Branch 1, branch 2, branch 131. I know you got it before me. But what happened was NAPS started using reuse. What NAPS headquarters did before was, if a branch dissolved, they reused an old number. We stopped doing it. So some people have an early, smaller number, but a later date. But just if you're not sure, contact me. You need that on the front of the 1024 form. After you're going to mail the documents to the IRS, your branch is approved for tax-exempt nonprofit status. Yay! God help you. Now, you got to fill out a form. Another form. Redundant reports. Okay. For most, in all honesty, even, I think St. Louis is one of the, if not the biggest branch in the main area. You need to look at what tax return you're going to file. NAPS headquarters does a 990. Our revenue is a little over $7 million. Here's the thing, we get in about $7 million, but I get back over half that back to you, and I have to tell the IRS who I'm giving it to. If they do do an audit. That's another thing. It's another thing. We're NAP's headquarters. What you do with money? Well, we kept $3.50 per member for, but we gave the rest up to the members. We get audited. Give us the list. Who got it? It's always being tracked. IRS wants to know where the money is. And I think, and my opinion is this nonprofit loss issue. If you look at the 274,000 or 5,000 names that got lost for nonprofit status, some of those things look awfully questionable as nonprofits. I think the IRS was looking at for Homeland Security, if anybody's funneling any money, things like that. So, if you have over $200,000 in gross receipts, you do the 990. 50,000 and up to 200,000, you do a 990 easy, it's paper form. This is the one. Most branches will fall under the 990 e-postcard. 990N e-postcard. For gross receipts less than 50,000. Once you get set up, you do it every year. Less than 5 minutes. Find 5 minutes. Get a cup of coffee, sit down, get it done. Print it out. But you got to remember, when do I file it? If you're nonprofit, you file the 15th day of the 5th month at the end of your fiscal year. One of my most recent apps, HPD, is that. When does your branch end their fiscal year? And I've had people say, well, I don't know. You have to. When you do an audit, when you go to the state convention, when did you start and when do you end? NAP's fiscal year starts June 1st to May 31st. We're going to end our fiscal year May 31st. Many branches do calendar. Okay? Do a calendar year, January 1st to December 31st. So if that's the case, May 15th is when you should have filed your 990 if you're a nonprofit. By May 15th. Now, again, if you file in June 1st, if your fiscal year is May 31st, for NAP's, June, July, August, September, October, count the months. In September, October. So, you need to make sure you're on time. So, it's simple. You go back to the IRS website, charities and nonprofits. It says e-postcard, form 990. There's the website. Put that in. You're going to register as a new user. So you're going to ask for, it's going to ask for a password and a username and a password. You're going to create your 990 postcard. Login ID, password. Remember that. Write it down. Store it in a safety deposit box, tattoo it on somebody's body. I don't know. All I'm saying is then you're going to have an email password and you're going to register your login. You're going to answer questions. For the tax year period, put in your fiscal year. Has your organization terminated or gone out of business? No. Are your gross receipts normally $50,000 or less? Yes. Here's your name. You go to the next page. You fill out the information of the officer in charge. Now, I work with Jerry out of Nevada on this. Fill out the information. Who's the officer? Submit to the IRS. You'll get a thing that says delivery status. Print this out. Somebody's got a cartridge they need fixed. All right? And then once you get that, you'll get an email that says it's been confirmed to the IRS. Save that. And what I'm saying is, then next year when you file again, this information is already there. You're just changing the dates. This should all be the same. Unless you change officers, then you need to change the officers. Yes?
What about the auxiliaries if they have a separate checking account? They have to give their EIN.
When you talk about an auxiliary, the same branch auxiliary has 2 checking accounts, or like your good example, you have a local auxiliary and you have a state auxiliary. They are both separate entities. They both need nonprofits. They're going to do it that way. And I've worked with some of the auxiliaries to get them nonprofit. And I know people say, they don't have a lot of money. You're right. IRS doesn't care. They want to know where the money is. That's the tough part. Because like, the auxiliary only gets $200 a year. They use it to send somebody to LCS, the National Convention. They spend it. They are acting as nonprofit or a business. Even if you decide tomorrow you want to open up a lawn mowing business and become a sole proprietor and start charging people for mowing lawns, The IRS wants to know I'm a sole proprietor. You know, they would do it under the table. You can't do NAP's business, sorry, under the table. Because I'm sitting at a table and I'm sending you money. So the IRS wants to know, same with the auxiliary. The branches who are going to support the auxiliary have to show where the money's going. Where the money goes. Just like at the post office. You think you're going to get away with taking money out of stamp stock and they're going to find it. May not be right away, but they're going to find it. Post office. So the idea is just go through the process, the 990, pretty simple. The e-postcard is due every year by the 15th day of the 5th month. So by May 15th on this example, of course it falls on Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, you get the next business day. You cannot file an e-postcard until after your fiscal year ends. You cannot file a 990 e-postcard if you are not nonprofit. I have people say, well, I can't file it. You're not nonprofit. You haven't filed it. You're a business. You can't do a 990 postcard or 990 unless you were officially designated by the IRS as nonprofit. So, also forms to file for state income tax, tax exempt nonprofit branches. You need to contact your state to see what you need to file. In Illinois, if you're nonprofit with the federal IRS, you're nonprofit in the state of Illinois. One of the things we do at NAPS, you also have to file what they call a 990T. Let's say you're selling stuff that's outside your realm. Maybe you're, maybe you're in the business of doing vacation travel, your branch, and getting extra money for that. Or, we at NAPS are, it's something, it's basically outside the regular business. You're trying to raise money doing something that isn't really associated with the branch, with the branch activities. So, that being said, I would say 50/50s and bake sales or whatever, raffles, that's all part of raising funds. But if you're in the business of, I can't think of anything right now. Like I said, if you're at the travel agency and all the profits from a travel agency is going to go to NAPS, you'd have to claim that on a 990T. NAPS headquarters does that for some of the things we do, but that most of you won't have. So, file your branch tax. An organization that fails to file will automatically lose your tax exempt status for 3 years. Then you have to refile you have to file for 3 years in a row, and the IRS could assess your branch late fee. Most right now, the IRS is just looking at getting everybody in compliance. I won't tell you they will or will not charge a fee, a penalty, once you file. But say, well, we're small, they'll never catch us. You know what? That's what we represent our members for. Are we willing to put our members at risk, especially when the IRS says, your corporate income, your corporate return should have been filed, and guess what? All your members should have filed a Schedule E on their corporate income, on their 1040s. As officers, to me, it's every branch's responsibility, every member's responsibility to make sure it's done right. And it's just part of the nature of doing business. So don't put your members in a situation where the branch didn't file the right tax return, whether it's corporate or nonprofit, and put the members in jeopardy on that. Because your members going, why didn't I? Yeah.
We're in the process of getting our tax exempt nonprofit number. Okay, so if we get it and then we file this, then I won't have to do anything until May of next year.
Well, when does your fiscal year end?
I believe it's December.
Yeah, the IRS may send you a letter saying you need to file. Good example, Illinois Auxiliary. They were not nonprofit. I helped Illinois Auxiliary down nonprofit. Their fiscal year ended April 30th. They got nonprofit in July. They had to file a 990 because their fiscal year just ended. It was within the 5 months. The IRS will let you know if you need to file.
Okay.
They'll send you a letter. You need to file a 990. Okay. So, don't panic, get started how? Establish a branch accounting method, manage your branch records, do financial audits and reports. We have branches that have never audited their books. have had branches where the treasurer, unfortunately, has walked away with thousands of dollars. Taking money from the branch, because they, oh, they were the treasurer for years. Oh, we always trusted them. It's not about that, it's about doing, we have an audit every year. I'm preparing for the NAPS audit, not for the convention, but our auditors right now, after June 1st. You know, we have you want to know as officer, as members, how we're doing financially. We're making sure you're protected, protecting NAPS funds. That's all that is. Making sure you're doing what's right. That's part of doing branch duties. Keep branch minutes, establish and update branch constitution and bylaws, and retain branch records. File annual returns on a calendar year basis of fiscal year. Organization may maintain their books on records on cash method or accrual method. Most of you are going to be cash, which means when the money comes in, you claim it. When you pay an expense, that's when you claim it. It's not like it's kind of like the post office on accrual. You got your pay, you got your paycheck, and it's an accrual. You know, you say, oh, I got this expense, but I haven't paid it yet, so I'm going to write it off. Most of you are going to be on a cash basis. Money in, money out. It's the easiest. That's what I recommend. Yeah, when received and expenses paid. Accrual method is recording income when earned and expenses when incurred. Earned and incurred. So most branches maintain their records on a calendar year basis. Maintain their records on a cash method. Maintain the following records on manual, ledger, or computer. I'll carry you do it. Do double books if you need to. I mean, not 2 separate books. You know. Never go to prison. What I'm saying is some people want to keep hard copy, and then you have, because you want to, definitely if you're going to do it on computer, make sure you have backup. Just when you think, oh, my computer's doing great, it crashes. You've lost everything. Gross receipts, items purchased for resale. That's some of the 990T stuff, you know, you might be doing t-shirt stuff. Expenses, LTS, national convention, NIT convention, employment tax records. We have some branches that have people they hire to run their office. They're big. They have hundreds and hundreds of members. I have no branch that owns a building. Now, I don't want to do their taxes. You know, you need to tax it. So, if you have assets and liabilities, keep track of them. Sorry. Permanent records. Applications for tax exempt status, federal identification number. These records you never get rid of. You never destroy. You keep. You make sure. You know we do. We do the swearing in of officers. Protect all records and funds coming into my custody and turn them over to my successor when he or she is elected. These are it. Turn them over. Keep track of them. You know, a determination letter recognizing the organization's tax exempt status. You will get a letter from the IRS saying, hey, you're a nonprofit. You know, don't be free. No more federal income tax. Organization's constitution and bylaws, including addendums or updates. We have copies of our NAPS constitution because I have to go back and look because people are questioning some of the, well, what happened here, and associate members here, and when did we have this? Well, some things have changed, some things didn't. It used to be you could belong to any branch you wanted if you were a person in one office. That's out of the NAPS constitution and bylaws. I don't know when it was in, but we go back and look at those. Minimum requirement. Income tax return should be kept for 3 years plus the current year. General ledgers or financial reports should be kept for 3 years plus the current year. Records may be kept indefinitely if the organization chooses. If you have space, and you want to be a pack rat, keep it. You know, you may want nostalgia, but I can tell you, NAPS headquarters, we're pack rats up there. I'm finding stuff, I'm like, oh, why are we keeping this newsletter? 1976. Maybe we'll see a different area. That's all I know. But what I'm looking at is, keep what you feel is necessary. If you want, if your branches keep it all, that's great. But you got to be able to store it. Any 1099 forms must be issued to any officer or member who is compensated an amount of $600 or more. That's for this compensation. We're giving a stipend. We're giving a gratuity. That's money. It's over $600. Technically, by rule, you have to give a 1099. Unless you change your constitution and bylaws that says, we're giving this money for unreimbursed expenses, incidentals. Reimbursement for expenses are exempt from this requirement. If you're getting reimbursed for mileage, your receipts for lunch, you don't have to claim that. Again, be careful with these stipends and gratuities. Tax exempt organization that is required to file Form 990. 990 must report the name, address, structural, and operational changes on the annual return. You'll have changes in officers. When you do your 990, you'll make that change on who the new officer may be. And if you file any organization required to file electronic 990, you may report these types of changes in writing to the IRS there. And again, you'll have this. If you have changes, sign it. All organizations must have a care of person, secretary, treasurer, the president, sign the returns. You know, care of person should be one of the following: an officer of the branch. When officers in that branch change the following orders must be reported. There's a form, another form to fill out, an 8822. Contact. One of the things I've said, and many of you have already heard this presentation when we were at the Central Region training. We as NAPS headquarters, before me or whenever I got there, we at NAPS headquarters gave you your chapter, gave you your branch designation. And then I say, okay, good luck. We can't do that. We have to make sure when officers come in and people step up as officers, the newbies, that they're not saying, I don't do it. I don't have any support. You have support. That's what we're here for. If we're going to give you your charter to become a branch, by God, we should make sure you're getting the tools and you're getting the information and the training to be able to run your branch. We don't get it at the post office many times. You just stick a computer in front of me and say, you know, Godspeed. Bless you. You know, good luck. Don't call me to get into trouble. We can't do that. So what we will do, we at NAPS, I will work with you to make sure if you want to be nonprofit, great. If you want to be a business, that's fine too. Again, if you have any tax issues, complicated, we're not going to be tax professionals. I'm going to give you the information. If you have any concerns, you're not sure, contact a tax professional or attorney. That's what I did. We did the 1024 form completed. We've used that. It has worked. Okay? But you just have to make it specific to your branch. Right. Now, has your branch been taxed? You bet. And you know, this is a glorious job. And those who are secretary treasurers or treasurers, you know, many people don't want to tell me, you like the numbers, but that keeps, because how many branches go, we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that. You need to make sure what you can afford to do, what you can't do. And that's by keeping track of your expenses. Now, one of the things, again, I have done to help you, I took the IRS has the big tax form 1024. I took the filing instructions and I really made it into clip notes. I've gone down and I've kind of walked through, this is on, it's your first time filing. Request an EIN number, how to do it. Step by step for the 1024 completion. Part 2, question 1. The thing is, I'm trying to keep it clip notes. Go to, you know, page 3, part 2, section, replace the example information of the branch, and that just tells you. I tried to make it as simple as possible. So you don't have to go on, Brian, this is too crazy. We don't want to do it. It's a little bit of time, but once you get there, you'll be fine. Call me. I've sat on the computer with branch officers, and I've walked them through. And like this whole thing here, it just goes through, and there's suggestions of what you might want to do. And all I've done is 1024, page 4, page 5, financial information, page 4. Leave all the questions 9 through 16 marked no, unless your branch has a newsletter. I'm telling you, don't change anything except for number 16. Follow instructions. Okay? Just ask it. If you really think Brian doesn't know what he's talking about, then do what you want. But, you know, I went to our attorneys and I went to our accountants because I don't want to go to prison. Like I said, if I want to prison, it's a woman's prison because I want to be boss there just like at home. Okay? I want to be told what to do. Carol, I know I'm in trouble. Like I said, you guys heard this. Carol and I have been married coming up 24 years. She knows what I'm thinking because she tells me what to think. That's easy. That's the easy part. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just trying to give you suggestions. Because I really take this serious because this is serious. You come here, do your caucuses, you do your constitution and bylaws, and you do your resolutions, you know, and I kind of stand in and hear, and you guys have your discussions. This isn't a joke. And we have a good time in the hospitality room, and I want to thank, Tom, and let's see, I've gone blank.
Identify.
And remember, I forgot Ann Cottage at the LTS. Okay.
Yeah, right.
The thing is, there's so much on our plates that we can't, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. Attention to detail. That's what we're trying to do here, attention to detail. Once you get it, you're good. Just follow that extra 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your fiscal year. Doesn't have to wait till May 15th. Print it out. But work together with your officers. Like I said, that's what I have on branch taxes. I will answer any questions that you have on this topic. And then, I don't know how much time I spent, and I use up all my allotted time to speak on anything else.
It's all about you, Brian.
No, that's all about me. All about me. We have any soda left from last night? Yes.
Brian, that last part that you had up there about the steps,
Yeah.
do you have that printed out or something?
It's on the website. It's on the NAP's website. We have a section under forms, documents. Go down to branch taxes. It's there. I can also send it to you. I also have it done for those who are asking for reinstatement. You're a non-profit, but you got it revoked. I've got the steps for that and a cover letter to go to the IRS. And what we do is we ask for forgiveness. We're just volunteers. We're trying to help our members. We're not experts. I raise my hand because I want to help. Don't punish me. And that's what we're trying. And most of what I'm hearing, the IRS is not going back and doing any fines or anything. They just want you to get in compliance. So that being said, I have all this on the website, but we can also send it to, I'll send it to Larry because he'll send out this email. Juan.
You say the 1024 populated description? Where are you going to have that?
That's on the website too. It's all on the website.
I'm looking for it. I sure can't find it.
Go under forms and documents.
I did, but it's the
Down about 2/3 of the way down.
We can pull it up, right?
the populated one, the one that's got your writing.
Doesn't have it in there? But if you're doing it on there, it won't come up because you're doing it on an iPad.
Then what is this thing for?
That's an iPad. Somebody did that to me. Somebody goes, Brian, this isn't, and I got a hold of, it was Ruth at the time. I said, Ruth, this isn't working. And it's like, she goes, yes it is. And I'm like, it's there. I'm like, and somebody had an iPad, and don't ask me. We all have the iPhones, technology's good, but sometimes it doesn't always work. And I'm like, well, it's not showing up.
All my money back.
All
right.
There's other things that won't show. I'm going to show you up here.
All the stack.
You have to fill have about memory less.
What?
You have to fill out the
They have one done as list. And if you want on there,
That's for tomorrow.
No.
yeah,
I wasn't on there.
Still likes it.
Hey, don't get old. Don't get bipolar.
which was one
I love my class.
Is it yours? Oh, you're blind.
I got an EIN.
We've been talking about it for years.
We were calling their well, with all the
And I wanted to call him and ask him where we stand with it. Now that we're all
balances, it's all done as part of it.
What do you have? Want to help?
We had a great week.
Now, here's the web page. The web page. Now, what's web page?
I know that, that's why I always use questions.
Go down.
Keep the conversation down, please.
Taxes, information for branches, papers, now, call me a liar.
So I talk later. Yes, sir.
Okay, so, oh, this is, all right, that's, it's there. All right, so, yeah, that's right.
All right,
A few years ago. No, I did not.
but he was in West Side
But I
Story.
I did make it into a musical, so yeah, that local community theater.
You didn't see the West Side Story?
Yeah. So, then we have branch taxes. There's instructions for the first time filer, reinstatement. The instructions, if you want the IRS 1024 form, so that information is there, request for reinstatement. So that being said, I can send the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint's format is pretty big, but I can send it to Larry and get it out there. So, but this information is there for you. So, what are the questions? It's not glamorous. I get it. I always like numbers and like dealing with the IRS, but it's a necessary business practice.
Hey, Larry,
Yeah.
when is the IRS grace period over for all this? I mean,
Well, if you've been needing reinstatement, you can get at the end of this year, December 31st of 2012, you need to get your reinstatement in for $100. After that, you'd have to file normal, always back as a brand new nonprofit. You still use your EIN number and start all over, pay either the $400 or the $850.
and so it's due by January?
No, December, you would have to file for reinstatement. If you lost your nonprofit status and you wanted to get reinstated and go back to 3 years that you lost, you have to file by the end of December, by the end of this year,
Well,
to put that information.
call that number.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So you have,
But right now, if you lost your nonprofit status, you're considered a business and you want to get reinstated and have all that retroactive, which they'll do. Did that answer your question? Anything else? Okay.
Hey,
Well,
Joe,
no.
what if you don't know if you're wherever nonprofit?
That's why you call an 800 number at the beginning of the presentation,
Okay,
and you get your EIN number.
we have one.
You have an EIN number.
Yeah.
You're going to call the IRS and say, is this EIN number good for nonprofit? I say no. Because the number I gave you is the nonprofit tax exempt part.
Okay.
So when they say, no, you're not nonprofit, then you know you need to file. If you are nonprofit, then you're fine. They may say, they may tell you, oh, you were,
his brother's trying
you
to.
lost your nonprofit status, you need to go for reinstatement.
Yeah, call this number to find out what happened.
EIN number for your social security?
So after we done with this crazy tax thing,
What?
now from the NAP headquarters, I want to bring greetings from Louis and Jay. They're traveling to convention this weekend. Much of the stuff we talked about, you've seen. A lot of things are happening at NAP's headquarters. I know it's pretty boring in your offices, right? Let me just give you a kind of update at NAP's headquarters, what we've been working on, what's transpired over the last few months. You know, as you know, we've updated our communications with the website, our NAP HQ view, our Twitter, and our Facebook. I just want everybody to know, our main communication is really with, we send out memos to the board, and then Larry would forward them on, you know, talk about our consultant meetings. But if you really want a lot of information, what's up to date, go to the website. If you're not registered, get registered. We have about 3,200 people, 3,200 members registered. We have 27,000 plus members. You know, Facebook is nice. you know, but that's not our primary. We have people say, well, you can put it on Facebook. Well, not everybody's on Facebook either, you know. And we do some tweets or twits or whatever, and I don't, you know, yeah, I can't get arrested. So, you know, so go to the website, and the NAPS HQ to you is our online newsletter. Our idea for that was just to send out helpful information from NAPS headquarters, what the staff can do for you. Not supposed to be a lot of editorials. I know it's kind of like, I kind of re-emphasize membership or stuff for secretary treasurers, you know, ideas for like Elliot, the new legislative coordinator, to help with SPAC and what's going on, and Jovan, my membership. So I'll get into that. But those are the things. Talking about the staff, we do have new staff. Many of you have known Jill Barrett. She worked for NAPS for over 37 years. She retired in December. I appreciate it. She knows, like I said, I kind of joke as well, the files are buried, you know. So she has the history of NAPS. She knows what's transposed over, or transpired over all the conventions, you know, and all the resolutions, and kept really attention to detail. We have a young staff now. Seth Lennon, who was legislative coordinator for Jay, Secretary, Vice President, has now been promoted and is Louis' assistant. Elliot Friedman was hired from the rural letter carriers, and he handled their SPAC, their PAC money, and is now handling the LTS and legislative. Fairleigh Benson got married, then her and husband had a baby. She took maternity leave, and she elected not to come back to NAPS and stay home, or you know, be more at home with her newborn. So we appreciate everything she's done. So that being the case, we've hired Bailey Anderson, who is my assistant, and Jovan Duncan, who took over for Fairleigh. Jovan was being trained while before Fairleigh went on maternity leave with the idea of Fairleigh was coming back. That being said, we're in the transition of a new membership program called MemberMax from the old DCO, and you know, it's like anything, it's new. It's going to do a lot for us. We're getting from the post office now job titles, EIN numbers, we can sort. It also holds history. For the old DCO, and I call it old, because I don't know what, I call it D-base, I don't know. Anytime we get the payroll file from the post office and we download it into the old DCO, all the other data, all the information was just wiped out and was just current. I couldn't tell you, Kevin Bai went to 3 different branches over at the course of his membership. You know, the new program will do that. It will show if you've got a promotion and you get moved to another branch, things like that. It will show if you were supervisor of customer services, now you're a postmaster. It will do that. It's a new program. It's kind of off the shelf, a little bit of tweaking on programming, but it has a lot of potential for us to do more sorting. And yes, it's for membership, for non-members, we're going to get a non-member list from the post office every month now. One of the things we did is we had to import DCO data, old DCO, into the new system. We did keep history of branch officers. Amazing. We did that, but we didn't keep history of each member. So what's happened is you go back to 1998, 1992, and find out who the branch president was of the branch. Unfortunately, they may be deceased by now, or they're no longer a member. Well, what happens is our system, the new system, doesn't know that, so when you ask for a non-member list, if somebody retired, was a NAPS member at the time of retirement, and didn't become an associate, they can always come back as an associate, as a NAPS member. So they technically become a non-member. So we send out a non-member list, and people say, well, wait a minute, this person died 3 years ago, and but we don't know that. So when you get a non-member list, you will have people that may have retired 10 years ago and they've never joined as an associate. But they could always become an associate because they were a member in good standing when the time of their retirement. We just have to sort deeper and just give you non-members who are still working in the post office. We can give you the list of all the postmasters we have, the list of all supervisor customer services, or SDOs, managers. So that's something we're going to be able to do to find out where we may need to push membership. And that's another thing, membership. You know, we got the membership drive going, 1,012 members in 2012. I always try to do a little bit of marketing, a little play on words, keeps it lively, except like my tax presentation. But anyway, the idea is we know that membership is really the lifeblood of our organization. Of course, without the post office, we have no NAPS. And we know that, I'll be honest, membership is declining. can stay NAPS members as associates. But right now, we only have about 1,275 associate members. And we're down to about, my last reading is 27,507 regular members, active, which are people who are still working at the post office. When you go back to May 2010, we had 30,567 active members. We had 1,207 associates. So the associates are staying stable. Well, the post office is cutting jobs. But one of the things I think we're proud of at NAPS headquarters is that we worked with the executive board. And the post office did the restructure a year ago, and they got rid of an area in the districts. Not one NAPS member who didn't want a job. I mean, not one NAPS member lost a job who wanted one. We had people who got offered jobs, plenty jobs, they wouldn't take them. They got rid of it. They had a chance for a job. The executive board, we were on telecons, find out who was on the list, and at the 11th hour, we were getting people jobs. People weren't applying either. Then they got offered a job. Well, I don't know if I want it. The idea was, this guy cut the cards, just get in the deck and we shuffle later.
Yeah.
You know? So those are the things we're kind of looking at. And I think I'm going to skip and do the little tricks that come on this with membership and people moving. I have to tell you that the post office, wanted to get rid of 256 facilities and shut them down. We know that. We pushed hard 1789 and Sandville. We've been telling the post office, you got to keep overnight delivery. We need to save the jobs. Now the post office isn't going to cut as many. And this network optimization and all this post and all this restructuring it's supply and demand. Postmaster Jeffs got an incentive. They're going to lose they could possibly lose 13,000 positions because now postmasters are going to come out of these small offices and level 7 clerks are going to go in. We have members right now, we've seen the message from NAPS, an incentive was offered to postmasters. They have more postmasters than they have jobs for them. They're level 11 and 13. Supply and demand. They need people to move. They need people to retire. Right now, we're hearing there's not going to be an incentive now for other EAFs. And I know people who hold their retirement papers thinking they're going to get $20,000 and this year, $10,000 this year, and next year. Some people are mad at NAPS. What are you doing for us? Save your jobs. Sorry. I hate to say I'm sorry that I'm trying to save your jobs because there's a lot of members who can't afford to retire. Even if they're eligible. We got people who have kids coming back living with them, helping them raise their grandkids, helping them put kids through college. They need their job. Now, it's supply and demand. Whoever you want to answer now, this is if there was an incentive offered and you were eligible or a Ibera, would you take it? Some people would. They take the money. They've been waiting. But the idea is the post office decided, Jim, I'm going to retire. Have you worked? Jim, I don't need you to retire. I got plenty of landing spots. We talked about landing spots. Post offices, they were doing this all the time, landing spots. Now we have more people, or more jobs than we do people for jobs. So there's no need to have people leave. And pay them $10,000, $20,000 to go. Man, I just missed out. I got one at 50-50. The thing is it more important that a few of our members get $20,000 or more of our members have a job to go to? And those are the things we talk about closing facilities. I will tell you this. I mean, I talk because I'm living in, at NAPS headquarters. My branch still contacts me. Go figure. I had 6 branches. I'm sorry, 6 facilities in my branch targeted for closing. St. Louis, Centralia, Carbondale, Effingham, Quincy, Bloomington, Springfield, Illinois. Right now, the only one I got saved, Springfield, Illinois. So I got 5 facilities in my branch that are targeted somewhere down the line, and 2 of them already this summer. So now, we have landing spots. Now they have to drive to Peoria. Oh, heaven forbid, Peoria. But from Bloomington, or maybe go to Champlain. The idea is there's jobs. If you want to retire, then retire. If you're hoping to get the money, the little boost has been great. One of the things I talked to Lewis and Jay about, I emailed them, I said, look, one of the things we need to find out from NAPS and push back is how many vacancies are within the 50 miles of a facility closing? So our members don't have to commute more than 50 miles. And if they do, they'll land a job. What we need to do is push back and say, then give them a beer and give them the incentive. So they don't have to pick up their families and start driving over 50 miles. So that's the communities. Whether or not they're going to do that, I don't know. But I think a lot of this action the post office has taken, you know, get the Senate bill, and now the House doesn't have anything. And Senator Lieberman was on record saying that PMG said he wasn't going to close any facilities this year. We just got the list, 48 this summer. So that means that the post office drew the line in the sand and stepped over it and say, okay, House, what are you going to do? What's the House of Representatives? Am I going to get a bill coming up to match the Senate bill? I don't know. But I think it's pushing the issue to have Congress act. So we're not going to close any facility right away. And, but there'll probably be some closing. We just need to be ready. I tell you, get your careers ready. Mine's ready. I have mine's ready. Actually, I can get on the blue page. I can get on that light blue. I can't get on blue. But my career's ready, just in case they send the Brian Customer Relations Coordinator Thomas. I still have 3 years to go to retire. Eligible. Whether or not Carol will let me retire, that's another thing. You don't want me at home screwing things up. But the idea is we have to be ready for our members to make sure there's landing spots. May not get the job you want right away if you're impacted. The key is get your job. Because there's going to be more changes coming, more people retiring. Because they say 135,000 postal employees can retire now. And how many more in the next few years? Don't be pushed out. Go when you want to go. Some of the things, speaking about going places, National Convention's coming up in Reno. Peppermint, Liz J and I went out there to do some final review with the hotel, the AV, the entertainment. It's in the next postal supervisor, kind of what's happening, the agenda, but just give you an update. Sunday night, if you're coming in, we're going to have, they call These Two Girls. They're like a DJ group. There'll be a cash bar and some dancing. If you want to go, we'll have our room. If you want to go to some dancing. For some reason, they had gambling there. You don't know about that. The casino has some gambling. Yes. And then on Monday night, we'll have the delegates reception. We have a group called Oh What a Night. It's going to be in the grand ballroom. Everybody have a seat. It's going to be set up just like, classroom. And there'll be hot dogs and beer and wine and some burgers and that. And then, of course, Tuesday night is a free night. And Wednesday, if you want to go over to Lake Tahoe, we have, you can get tickets to go on the boat, go swimming, horseback riding. I mean, you want to look at doing that. And then we have the grand banquet on Friday night. So there may be, we've got 3 cities vying for the 2016 National Convention. That's Detroit, Phoenix, and the National Harbor, which is in Maryland, but it's right across from Washington, D.C. Right now, those are the 3 that may have some sort of hospitality on Thursday night. We're anticipating anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300 delegates. And, it's a beautiful hotel, plenty of room. If you stay in the Tuscany Towers, it's a little bit more expensive. The elevator comes right down to the ballroom. Maybe you may see my article on the HTVU. The Peppermill Towers are nice rooms. They're a little smaller. They're about a 5-minute slow walk from the convention thing. Like I said, you walk past the pool, a wedding chapel. You don't go by the casino. So if you want to gamble Big Mary or gamble in a casino, that's your business. Just don't be late. That one. So anyway, that's on the National Convention. A couple of things we've been working on, a policy letter from the post office. You've probably seen the redundant report letter that I know Larry's probably sent out from Dean Cranholm on April 6th about trying to get rid of these redundant reports and logs. Special exempt from Doug Tolino, April 12th, about getting paid. If you are special exempt, you are entitled to be paid for anything over 8.5 hours. You do not have to be supervising 2 employees. That rule got rid of years ago. But we have members who are being intimidated into not putting in for their time. Now, I can tell you, we got the pay talks coming up. Post office didn't even see what they offered us. They don't give us anything right now for 2 years. We want to fact find it. So if you're working over 8.5 hours, right now, that's your pay for performance. Get paid. You got bills to pay. You got families to take care of. Yes, the post office is losing billions of dollars. And my position has always been, they would have lost more if it wasn't for the EAS stepping up and managing their operation. They should be thanking us for what we're doing, or what you've been doing, instead of punishing you for not wanting to pay you. So don't be intimidated and say, well, they won't pay me. Put in for your time, and if it gets denied, contact your NAMSTRA. Because they're not going to deny your time, because that's an FLSA violation. And, speaking about that, Megan Brennan's put out a letter about exempts. Now, I'm exempt, by nature. So, 6 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. Needs to be reasonable. These mandates, we have come out of Chicago. Managers will work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day until service improves. Improves to what? And there's nothing's quantified. That's not reasonable. Their bosses aren't working that. And to say you have to come in until the first carrier comes in and the last carrier leaves, that's not reasonable. Now granted, have the supervisors stay, at least they get tea time. And I know people don't want to be working 6 days a week because we're short-staffed, and that's the other issue. Now that the post office isn't going to be closing as many facilities, our pushback is let's start filling the jobs. They say, well, we're filling critical positions. To NAMPS, they're all critical. If you're working 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week because you don't have the staff, and that's critical, we need these jobs done. And so, again, we don't have ASP anymore. ASP's gone. We don't have the interim ASP program. The post office is going to be coming out with a new supervisor training. It's kind of like the iPad 3, but it's not called iPad 3, it's called the new iPad. This is called the new supervisor training. It's not ASP 3 or it's going to be a lot of web-based. They gave us a briefing, you're still working on it, you go online, and your boss will sign off if you got the financials, but you would take it, and it's a program that you get the job, you get promoted, and then you take the training. It's not, you go through the process and just wait. So you get a Form 50 cut, you'll be a supervisor, you'll be going through this training. So that hasn't been fully rolled out. Now what still hasn't been fully rolled out is the 2009 PFP issue. And you're probably waiting. Those of you that had your PFP reduced arbitrarily back in 2009, you should have been in box 10, you got box 9, and box 10, you got box 6. We have about 800 members who are impacted with this, about having their pay for performance, that we know of. Some members not send anything in. We're trying to, I don't want to say consult, negotiate, whatever you want to call it, with the post office to get a result of this. People say, go to court. How many have ever been in a lawsuit? I tell you what, Carol was hit by a car in 1997, walking across the street. And it took 5 years to get those issues to court. It takes a while. Many of you would be retired. After trying to go to court, why not we get anything? The idea is we're trying to negotiate a settlement, a monetary settlement. Now we're back and forth with the post office. I know some members think, they want, we said be made whole. Everybody should be made whole, go back. Well, that's probably not going to happen. So the idea is, what can we do to get some sort of resolve? We know the post office erred. The OIG report says that. The OIG didn't say the post office needs to make it whole, because they don't do that. They just say, we did bad. So now it's us saying, okay, we need to compensate. It's better than zero, but it's not whole. So we're in between, and we've been back and forth. So we were hoping to have something before the convention season, but like everything, the post office has a lot of them in place, and they're kind of, they've been still deciding, but we've been. All I can tell you is that we're working on it. Will some members be happy? Sure. Some of them will retire. We have people who retired, we're looking to get them something. That's what's right. Other members say, man, I should have got more. You're right. But are you willing to sit 5 years, 4 years in a lawsuit and may not get anything? Some people say, yeah, I would. Well, we're trying to do what's best for it as a whole, and it's tough. Because we want to do your PFP should never have been reduced that way. But it was. So now we're trying to do it. We're trying to get some sort of result. So that we can figure that out. So that's what we're working on. And fact finding, we start the 1st of June. The arbitrators are coming in, or the mediators, and they're going to be meeting. We're going to be giving our presentation the 1st of June, June 3rd, post office. We have our attorney, he's a bulldog. He can go back and he's got like a photographic memory, and he can remember what Don Ledbetter said, search stuff from 1974 or something. I mean, it's amazing. There's a lot of information. But the post office is going to get, we're going to do the fact finding. A recommendation will come from the three panel arbitrators to the post office. They have to give us full consideration. The post office still may say, we don't have any money. But we felt was the right thing to do. Postmasters have already settled. We weren't going, that wasn't our settlement. Our settlement is we weren't fact finding. That's what we felt was best for the membership. And honestly, I think I pulled back into the executive board when we made that decision. And from what we've heard from the members, it's the right thing to do. And that's what we're doing. So.
Will the results of fact finding be made public?
It's my understanding we'll get some sort of, I don't know what gets made public, but I think the recommendation, I don't know. That would be something we have to find out because it's dealing with the three arbitrators. And I don't know. That's a good question. That'd be something. I do know that we'll be briefing the board when all that, whenever we get a decision.
What's the timeline on that decision?
It should be within 30 days. They have, by the, this is the first time we've ever done this, so we got these mediators coming in, there's time frames. And it's not going to be, they have to come up with, the mediators or arbitrators have to come up with a recommendation. And maybe we don't get anything. And maybe we get the, we're all supposed to get 10% pay increases. Post office still say no, but they may give us something in between. Now, we consider, area wages and new for overtime. There was a lot on the package. The key thing is, one, workplace environment. That's why we got the policy letters. That was one of the issues we were pushing. So the post office came up with these policy letters on redundant reports, reviews of exams, especially. Yes.
Mike, if we know that our pay for performance wasn't right, so we can find something else to our union rep or what?
Okay, run that by me again.
The pay for performance.
Now, one of the things that came up at the executive board, in 2011, I'll say because, you went through the whole process of pay for performance with the inclination you were going to get something. You went through all the hoops, core requirements, went through the mid-years, had your reviews, with the anticipation that there was a pay for performance in 2011, even though we did not have an agreement, because the idea was like since it expired, it just gets extended. That's not the case. But the post office gave the perception that, oh, we're going to get a pay for performance. After it was all said and done, after September 30th, on November, they said, no, we're not going to give you anything. So one of the messages we sent out by advice of our attorney for our members to send an email to their boss saying you were expecting this. And that's just to put on record like as a class action. We're looking at that option. Do we have standing, in this legal terms, I'm not a lawyer, to have a standing to go and say, look, the post office provided this perception and had us go through all this process as if we were going to get paid for performance and expectation, and then after it's all said and done, said no. And the attorney has some legal name for that, and I can't remember, but, loss of affection, or whatever. I don't know. Oh, what's the money? Really effective.
When that came out and the members sent it up to the instructions were to send it up to their manager.
Yeah.
And keep a copy of it. Did you need the copies of those?
Not yet.
Okay.
And one of the things we got is after pay for performance, people started sending us their e-recourses. Because we did that in 2009. But once the administrative process, we have 2 appeals, and that's basically all you have. The thing is, just keep it. We have to put on the record, if we call for it, you put in and you put your boss on notice. And as you can notice, if you also notice, the post office had some statement come out because they saw that coming. So, I mean, I thought our attorney did a good job on that. But we had to show, we had to do something in order to have the post office react to it. So, it's not like we can't just sit there. And that's the other thing. As members, just don't sit and wait. you need to take the initiative, whether it's you think your facility's going, there's a job you want, they're going to start posting. I think Simon said they're going to post. If there's something you want, don't be going, hey Kevin, I'm going to wait. Well, Kevin, just wait until somebody come asking. You need to take the initiative. You really do. It's your career. So those are the things that we're looking at. I mean, I've kind of touched on everything I want to touch on, Larry, and like I said, I'm here till whatever questions, you know.
We were talking about pay for performance. My issue is Postmaster General gets a raise. We're the frontline people. We go for those numbers. We still have, even though, you know, technically we don't have that where we go for those goals, but you still see the frontline people are still going for those numbers, and they're still making those numbers, and we get nothing for it. But yet we still do it because we have pride in our jobs, and we're there for our customers. Now, I know you probably can't give me the explanation why he got a pay raise, but why is it that he does, and we're the ones who have all the ins and outs, we deal with the customers on a daily basis, all our carriers, we have the safety, we have everything. And there's nothing that is done for us. And I know you have been working on it, and I know Jay's been working on it, and that's great. But the thing is there some way to present it to them? You know, even though we don't have this, and the people know they're not getting anything, and it probably won't happen, they're still striving for those numbers.
Right. A couple of things, you know. APW got a pay increase, you know, we're 4.5 years, 3.5%, they took up pay increase. You know, we're postal blue team. I'm willing to take a hit for the team. We all take a hit. Everybody. But if not everybody's taking a hit, don't take it off my back. You know, because we've already lost the overtime. We've already lost, you know, a lot of the other issues, support, cost of living, and everything else. The idea is Postmaster General has basically a contract. You know, remember, you got PCs, who are the postal career executives, and they have a different pay issue. They get different benefits considered the EAS. Now, I think Bill 1789 had some issues with it with regard to holding down the pay of executives, which you're going to see a lot of those executives, that happens, gone. They're not going to stay. Yeah. So what can be done, that's been seen, especially when Jack Potter left and he got his big, you know, deferred 800,000 or $1 million. You're right. It's not fair. You know, and we're doing it, but he's the Postmaster General. It's kind of like, why is a congressman and the senators getting their money and they're not doing anything? You know. So that being said, the other thing is, you still need to do your job. You're loyal. You're dedicated for the customer, for the service. There is no money tied to this pay for performance or whatever, the PES. But what is tied to it is if you get ripped, if there is a rip, that rating you get will put you on the retention register on who goes. Now, I know you have issues, you know, if you're a veteran prep, you're protected. But if a facility's going all together, there's no vet prep protection either. So, Springfield, Illinois, if they were to, you know, had to reduce, and there's no veterans, they're going to look at the last 3 performances and which rating you got. You know, there's no money tied to it. What's tied to it is whether or not you're going to lose that job. So there is money. You know, it's just not something you can grab onto. So yes, and we tell people, you got to do your job. You know, and in this stage you want to think, man, I don't want to do this anymore. But you have choices. You know, right now there's not a beer being offered for those who are not eligible. Those who are eligible, yes, you have choices, but you shouldn't be pushed out. And that's some of the other issues we've seen where 30 people with Jack Berry mentioned 36 years of service, never a letter of warning, and all of a sudden you're a poor performer. Come on, we know where that's going. You got age discrimination. You know, so those are some issues we're trying to address. But as a whole, you know, you got some bad managers, bad postmasters, maybe bad supervisors, bad EAS. You know, that's not doing the right thing. So next time. So, and that's what the Postmaster General gets right. And all the executives, they have their bonus packages and all that. And we don't get a bonus. The union wants to make it look like we got a bonus. I got a lump sum, but then go into my base pay, and that was in lieu of overtime. And that was another thing. When we went to the pay for performance, It was to help compensate for the loss of this overtime and on all this area wages, whatever they want to give, not give us. Well, now they're taking that away. So, well, we're still working on pay, you know. Hopefully the post office, I hear, you know, performance-wise, and the post office is doing better. But you can't cut yourself into profitability. So, what else we have? Paul?
2 questions, Brian.
I don't want to give you one answer.
First one's going to probably kind of slap back in the face, but that's fine. Due to the complexity of the organization, why don't we have group non-exempt for all the branches? That's the first thing. I know it's going to be complicated because all the branches have separate funds, whatever. But we get our per capita back from national, so they control what finance we get, unless we have sales. And the second thing is more of a personal nature. Is there any way to get maps to you earlier, either on Friday morning or late Thursday afternoon? Because what I do with the district, I have access to get that put on our maps bullet boards, so the members can see it. When we get it at 4:30, 5 o'clock on Friday, they've gone home. And I know on the West Coast, they get it probably midday, but for those of us in Central and Eastern, it's past closing time.
What was the first question?
World peace.
Group non-exempt.
And I've actually approached that with our accountants. I mean, it can be done. It still is, each branch still has to do their finances. And each branch has to send me their EIN number. And each branch has to send me their financials. So, as for, and there's a cost to that. I mean, is that something we need to look at? I've approached our accountants for it, who do our audits, and see if it's feasible. But, you know, to say I'm going to do it, some branches may not want it, unless, and all that, unless a resolution comes up. But it's very, you know, it's very costly because we have to make sure everybody's doing their finance right. Again, we have branches that aren't even doing audits. And say, where's your financial report? We haven't done one. We haven't had a meeting in 2 years. Who's getting the money? And we've had people, seriously, we've had members who are not, who retired and didn't become associates, so they sell the checking account. And I do it. So, can it be done? It's looked into. That would be something we would have to look at as an executive board, I think, because then we would require the branches, and if you're already set up, like Branch 131 set up, I know Wichita's working on it. I mean, there's a lot involved. And like I said, I've thought about it and I've looked into it. As for NAPS HQU, the idea was to have it come out every Friday. One, we're editing. And though sometimes it doesn't look like it, I try to have this attention to detail because when something does not go out right, it's like image. It reflects on the organization. And I have this thing about making sure it's looking right, and I'm trying to read things. If I'm traveling from a BlackBerry or an iPhone, and it's like you misspelled the letter, and you type it up in Word. The idea was we'd go out on every Friday. And we missed some days because of, it went out on Monday, with the, you know, only because I want consistency, and to put it out, sometimes we're editing at the last minute, and I'm reading it because I want to see it before it goes out. Because if I give it the approval, there's an error, then I'll take the responsibility. And we've sent some stuff out that I'm like, why did we send it out? I didn't see it. Because it reflects on the organization. And you don't want sloppy. And it's easy to get it out, but we don't want sloppy. We want professional. So when you're getting information from it, we want to make sure the information is accurate. Because I can tell you, if we were doing HQ this week, there's so much changes that came Wednesday, Thursday, I would probably be changing my article. Now it's due next Wednesday. Can we get it out sooner? We have a program for 4 o'clock on Eastern Time. If we can get it out sooner, we will, but I don't want to get to where it's going to be noon every Friday, because we may not make it. We made some last minute changes. So we're always editing up to the last. But I want to say at least on every other Friday, so people know it's coming. If we move it to Thursday, I don't know, somebody said, I missed it. And all of a sudden, you know, I mean, just put it out there as general agreement. You want it earlier? I mean, the thing is, we got to type it up. We're writing postal supervisor articles, we're doing NAPS HQU articles. You know, we're doing a lot of information. Not that I can't think of things to write about, but I'm trying to at least keep a little bit positive because there's not much right now.
Brian, it's an excellent vehicle, and like I said, thank you for doing that and your effort behind it. So I knew there had to be a mastermind who was a quiet ignorant.
I've lost my mind, but that's okay. What else we have? I know you have a lot of business, a lot of talking to do, and so I don't want to take up, but if you have any questions one-on-one on the draft, I'm going to have a little bit of coffee, more, and again, I just appreciate being here. So, it's an opportunity to come. Okay, I can announce it. I'm like, okay. The mystery box, donated by Grinch, 172. Richard Caruso.
You know what's funny about that? I have to tell you now, since Rich is gone, there's a $50 bill and 7 pennies in there, and he did
$60. All right. The complete bed set by branch 919. Pam and $23. Nebraska wine package, branch 10. Willie Beeman, $43. $50 quick trip card, branch 36. Cindy Bray, $45. Pair of lamps, branch 119. Mary Caruso, $20. I'm very upset about this one. The chocolate fountain, because I was talking. Pam, $31.
Man, I mean, tree.
Pam Tree?
Tree.
Oh.
Tree.
Pam Tree, where's Pam Tree at? Oh, man! I'm not happy. My granddaughters are crying now. Okay. Okay. $25 carry for branch 458. Godecki. Go to Carry. 45. Let's see. $2 $25 quick trip cards, branch 131. Gail Bell. 44. Quick trip for 50, branch 928, donated. Gary Townsend for 43. Let's see, $2 $25 Best Buy gift cards. Price?
Oh, Virginia
Virginia. $48. Okay, the cafe, frappe, whatever that is, from Topeka. Tammy Fuller, $45. Popcorn Popper, branch 527. Dixie Pickard, $62. Reed Garden.
You must have too much soda last night.
Yeah. Branch 119. Trying to look like an R there, like Gardner. Okay, Ira Dickman, $45. All right, Mexican Fiesta. Nebraska branch 930. Gail Bell for $35. Handmade bath mitts and girls' bows, outdoor solar light. Man, branch 205, donated by Ed Newman, $30. Handmade Afghan, branch 131. Janice Beagle, $40. Oh, wow, okay. Okay, case of water, case of ginger ale, case of squirt, and case of Coke and Diet Coke. All go to Tammy Fuller. So, all righty. One more. The gourmet gift basket. I only read what they give me. And then it gets me in trouble a lot. $25. I predict you guys for $25.
Settle up with Sue. Settle up with Sue and she'll take cash or check. She doesn't have the appropriate equipment to take credit card. So settle up with her and then we'll finish that up. Let's
ATM downstairs.
There's
an ATM downstairs.
If you want to do a personal check, make it out to me, Sue Dickman.
Let's take about a 10-minute break and then come back and we'll get into the afternoon.
For those branch 131